So read, 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 stuck on the block, read, read, sitting in the box, read, read. Yo, what's going on, people? This is Akala. This week's great read, as you can see, I kind of beat up the pages a little bit, is A Foot in the River by Felipe Fernández-Armesto. He had actually a book in the last series, didn't he, the lad? This is one of the weirdest, strangest, but most expansive and interesting books I've read recently. It's about essentially why human culture changes so quickly, but not really. You know, the limits of evolution, it says. And so it goes through, you know, the development of human culture. It even looks at, you know, there's a chapter called The Chimpanzee's Tea Party, where I learned a whole load of stuff that I had no idea about. So I marked a couple of bits here when I was just preparing for the video just before here. And he's talking about orangutans, and he says, you know, in some communities, orangutans use napkins when eating and kiss each other goodnight. In some, they use leaves for gloves when handling prickly vegetation. He goes through, there's a chimpanzee artist called Congo, who, you know, paints and sells work for thousands of pounds. And it looks at, you know, if we evolved from primates, do primates have culture? And what is culture? And, you know, it makes quite a convincing case, actually, that primates and other animals actually have what can sort of be called culture. Goes through, you know, the folly of racial science, you know, visits on loads of different things and looks at, you know, where human culture is going today, why it is accelerating the way it is, and why, as a historian, you know, which is a really unique perspective, why some cultures change so quickly. And things that we think are normal in one culture suddenly become abnormal. So he makes the point that when he was growing up, I believe he's of Spanish origin, but don't quote me on that, but he grew up in England. When he was growing up, the Queen wouldn't receive divorcees. That was like morally frowned upon. Now, you know, people in the royal family get divorced. How quickly that's changed. He talks about the death of Princess Diana. Before Diana died, he thought, you know, the British culture was very much stiff upper lip, and, you know, people just didn't show emotion. Diana died and the whole, you know, country brought out an emotion. Maybe to us that just seemed normal, but he, as a quote-unquote foreigner, thought that was really strange. British culture has changed. And he makes the point where he says, you know, he's talking about culture and the idea of innate culture. He says, in the British case, the whole notion is ridiculous since there is no British culture, though there are English, Scots and Welsh cultures. The only people in the United Kingdom with a traditionally strong sense of being British are Protestant Unionists in Northern Ireland, and even they have abandoned the notion in recent years, redefining themselves as Ulster Scots. So there's really more than anything I would say about this book. Armesto's way of writing, even though he's an academic historian, he's got the flair and wit and use of language of a really, really good novelist. And so even though, you know, this book is about very, very difficult subjects, about science, about evolution, it really looks at the whole evolution of science, if you like, in the early part of the book. It reads really nicely and really interestingly and really tickles your brain, like the way he uses language. So it's not an easy read in terms of subject matter, but I would say it's an easy read in terms of use of language, and a really fascinating read for anyone interested in why human cultures change and differ so vastly, as sort of is its mission statement. This week's great read is A Foot in the River by Felipe Fernández-Armesto.
So read, 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 stuck on the block, read, read, sitting in the box, read, 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 read.